Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh goes viral for his take on the United States removing commitment to treat HIV in other countries and why we were doing so to begin with. Ben Shapiro's take on never retiring also trends on yet again. The Somalian Minnesota mayoral candidate calls Somalia his home and is greatly critiqued. Porsche raises the prices on their 911 for the second time in 4 months. And Dewalt grinder flap is being recalled. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys, he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a Flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part podcast, you have Porsche raising the prices on a 911 yet again. Now, this is brought to us thanks to carandriver.com, specifically Joe over there. And they say, quote, Porsche hikes second price time in 4 months, base 911 Carrera now $143,650, probably 136 by the time this video is published. Say, citing current market conditions, Porsche has increased the prices from 2.3 to 3.6% across its lineup, which, it sucks. And I don't see it going away anytime soon because of ridiculous demand. I mean, unprecedented demand for the 911. And it also is rough because the entry-level Porsches are getting harder to get. I mean, the Cayman, which is awesome, but Germany is such a weak, conquered, neuter country. They said, "Oh yes, European Union, we'll bend over and stop making one of the most awesome vehicles of all time, and we'll turn into an EV just for you." Because Germany is such a weak, conquered country, even though by GDP it leads the European Union. I don't know if their politicians are weak, spineless, or just bought off, or maybe all of the above. But yeah, now if you want to buy a Porsche with a stick shift, it's going to cost you even more. And the Cayman, which again is a pretty penny, it's expensive, but in comparison to the 911, I mean, it wasn't half, but it's nowadays darn close. The Porsche Cayman started about, what was it, $69,000, and now Porsche starts again. This is automatic, $134,650. Now, dive in the article. They say that, quote, market conditions are to blame for the small but significant bump in prices in new Porsches. A Porsche spokesman said that, again, 2.3 to 3.6% price is absolutely necessary. Which, no, it's not. I mean, let's be honest. There's so many third-party analysts looking at the Porsche 911, estimating the profit margins of those things like 50 to 60%. Like, they don't have to. They're doing it because the end user is willing to pay for it, and they're going to pay for it no matter what. I mean, you see used Porsches sometimes going for more than new Porsches because the allocations are hard to get for some of them. But it's one of those things like, yeah, it's not like they have to do it. They're doing it because people are willing to pay for it. Again, you can't blame them. They're seeing the dealerships mark these up even more, and Porsche or Volkswagen Group more appropriately, they're wondering, why don't we just charge that? Now, they say that the new prices are going into effect now, and not only vehicle prices, but also some option prices are going up. And he says, quote, saving up for your dream Porsche 911 continues to become increasingly difficult. The German automaker confirmed to Road and Track that has issued yet another price hike on its lineup. This is the second price increase in the last 4 months. The previous increase was due to the 2026 model year changes. However, this time the increase is being blamed on, quote unquote, market conditions. Porsche declined to mention if tariffs are specifically a factor in this price bump. They say, quote, with our customers front of mind, sorry, I couldn't help but laugh. I mean, your customer is willing to pay even more at the top of your mind is what it meant to say. But nevertheless, Porsche says, quote, with the customers on front of mind, we keep a regular watch on market conditions, absorbing costs where we can and making adjustments only when it's absolutely necessary to do so. The Porsche spokesman Frank Wiseman told Road and Track, recently an adjustment between 2.3 and 3.6% was determined to be required. This is a routine step that has been communicated with our dealers and our affected customers, unquote. They say the new prices are in fact now and reflected on Porsche Car Configurator tool. In addition to the vehicle price increase, some options are even more expensive. Porsche spokesman Wiseman says, quote, similar to the MSRP itself, market conditions necessitate incremental adjustments to individual option pricing from time to time. When asked about market conditions, the 911 saw the largest 3.6% price increase of the models in the Porsche portfolio, increased by a smaller percentage. but they're all up at least 2.3%. The result is that the base 911 Carrera now starts at $146,650, including the delivery, process, and handling fee. That's a $4,700 increase. Jesus. The 911 GT or GT3 Touring is now, again, this gets insane, $234,550, including the gas guzzler tax. That is a $9,800 bump, which, again, for a $250,000 car, it's one of the best ones out there. And again, it's one of the last sports cars with a stick shift too. So they can also charge as much as they want in that regard. I mean, Lamborghini's gone, Ferrari's gone, Maserati. I mean, shoot, the Corvette. I mean, all the cars that used to be considered real hot. Well, you can debate about the Corvette, but all the higher sports cars, Porsche's the last one. Now, they continue to say, quote, if you're in the market for a new Porsche 911 and didn't get it before the latest price increase, don't wait around. You can still buy one today and get it before the next increase. It's unclear if or when that could happen, but Porsche rarely does a decrease. In fact, that has been proven lately, which, again, if everyone stopped buying it tomorrow, I guarantee you they would decrease it. Now, what's the propensity that is going to happen? I'm not a gambling man, but I'd say that's pretty, I mean, the odds of that are pretty darn low. Gosh, it looks so beautiful on the screen, that Porsche 911. And truth be told, I mean, I definitely have this bookmarked on my regular PC, but yeah, it's the Porsche configurator tool, which is exciting, but also soul crushing when you see the prices. Yep. 911. I was going to say, they lied. It's not actually updated on the website yet. Right now. Yeah, kidding. But now the disappointing thing to me is, well, the 911 Carrera is trash because it's an automatic transmission only. And they have the PDK transmission, which is a fancy amalgamation of German words I dare not even attempt to pronounce, and is lightning fast, yada, yada, yada. But if you want a true fun driving experience, which I would argue requires having a third pedal, also known as manual transmission, the 911T is what it starts out in terms of the lowest price 911 with a stick shift option. That starts at $143,700. And after this article, probably, it says $143,700. And of course, you can't forget the extortion from the tax man, depending on your state and where you live, maybe 6 to 7 or 8% on top of that. Jeez Louise. And again, that's with the base, white, which, you know me, I'm going to get a nice, signal green Porsche 911 one of these days, hopefully before I die, which is kind of funny to think that the custom paint option on a Porsche 911 for my green favorite color of the Porsche configurator tool cost more than my whole 2018 Honda Civic Si car, which is also green. But again, it really sucks because I do think these are some of the best cars on the planet, but it's getting so gosh darn expensive. And I mean, shoot, go to the Turbo S. This is the comical. Again, to me, it's almost a magical thing to go over 200 miles per hour. As a kid, that was a huge barometer. It's such a rare thing in the world. Now you have supercars going over 300 miles per hour, but to me, probably one of the most magical Porsches in that barometer would be the Turbo S, which goes, top speed of, was it 203 or 20? Yeah, 205 miles per hour. Which some people might ask, you're never going to use that topping. That's ridiculous. Have you ever driven in Texas? I can assure you, while I definitely wouldn't. Hypothetically, I assure you it could, hypothetically speaking. But yeah, it's one of those things where, this is what dreams are made of, so to say, or at least for me. But again, I love my Honda Civic Si. She is reliable, pretty affordable, cheap consumables for the track, tires, brake pads, oil changes. There's something iconic about the Porsche 911, and it sucks that Porsches are getting more and more out of reach. And again, it's partially due to government intervention and environmental rules. Again, they used to have the Cayman, which I think is still technically around for a couple more months. Or I forget if they actually closed the book on those, order book on those yet. But then those started around $70,000. So comparatively speaking, that was a great, entry-level Porsche. Now, granted, you can still get a used one. They're already trading for a pretty penny because, again, they noticed last year before they go to EV, for all 18 people who want an EV Cayman, which, again, you can't take to a track usually because they don't have the proper lithium-ion fire suppression technology and or insurance policies. And also you can't charge it between, sessions or racing sessions. This is definitely one of my soapbox topics. I'm a big gearhead. I love, driving with a stick shift, and you can't be that feeling downshifting to a corner. And it's really, who do we blame here? It's really the consumer. Everyone, the people with money and or people willing to take out massive loans are willing to pay a premium for a Porsche 911. They see time and time again these dealerships doing $5, $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 plus market adjustments. And Volkswagen Group, the parent company of Porsche, they're seeing that and they go, well, why should we allow the dealerships to make all this money? The market is showing that there's clearly money left on the table. So I understand, the business perspective of why they're doing this. Porsche is also one of the most profitable, important brands of the Volkswagen Auto Group. Hilariously, acronym is VAG. And Volkswagen itself, they're losing money on that specific brand in the Volkswagen portfolio. And I understand why they're raising the prices. It just really stinks because so many people, including myself, are working so hard. And it really does seem like a lot of these cars, which I wouldn't consider the base 911 a supercar. It's awesome. Turbo S, maybe you can debate the definition of that. It's just getting more and more out of place for the average hardworking American. And again, now the cheapest 911 you can get with a stick, which again, the trim is called the Carrera T, it starts at $143,700. That's a house. Well, not in Texas, in Iowa. Almost a down payment for a house in Texas with the market right now. But yeah, and I don't see them lowering the price. No, the other sports cars, there's really not that many comparable vehicles. If you could think of a fun high-end coupe with a stick shift in 2025, 2026. Again, all the competitors have gone to the automatic transmission. There's like one or two in that category that really directly, and again, the Porsche aficionados would probably say nothing competes with a Porsche. Maybe in some regards, but it is an automobile. It's a sports car. There are things that compete with it, obviously. But again, I am definitely more flabbergasted than usual for the segment of the podcast or the daily show. It is a little disappointing, but again, just got to keep working like hell. And I hope the prices go down. I don't think they will. And you can always negotiate with your local dealer, maybe, unless there's a 6 or 12 month wait list for the allocation, depending on what you want to build. But I don't see the prices going down anytime soon. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Report podcast, you have Matt Walsh going viral on the policy of the United States removing the commitment to treat HIV in other countries. That was brought to us thanks to X, specifically Matt's blog. Now, he's reacting to PBS News. Now, PBS News says, quote, the $4 billion, geez, so much money, $4 billion that the United States had pledged to the global HIV response for 2025 disappeared virtually overnight in January when U.S. President Donald Trump ordered all foreign aid to be suspended and later moved to shutter the USAID agency. Oh, no. Matt Walsh responded. Now, he says, quote, why should American families be forced to spend one dime treating STDs in 4 countries? Please explain why a family in Ohio should be obligated to provide an HIV treatment to a gay man in Uganda. I'd love for someone to explain this, unquote. Gained 2.5 million views as well as 47,000 likes. Oh, I thought I could be the one to get to 48,000 likes, but nevertheless, I did like that. Now, yeah, with how much the government steals from us from income tax, property tax, gasoline tax, telecommunications tax, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, what is this? We have gasoline tax. That's just firing off the top of my head really quick. All the ways they tax us, left and right and center. And how much of that money actually goes to us? I find it pretty abhorrent that so much of our money is stolen from us and goes to countries that we don't even have trade relationships with. And it just doesn't benefit the average American anyway. Now, one could argue Democrats are importing so many Ugandans to the United States, it could have a direct impact on us. They shouldn't be doing that, but I mean, I can understand. I don't think that's why they're doing it, I don't think that's why people are saying we need to support these countries by tune of billions of trillions of dollars. But I mean, maybe that's why Democrats rationalize, be like, whoa, we're importing them anyway. But yeah, that's $4 billion. Why should our taxpayers pay for that? Why can't those countries take care of themselves? The United States seems to be one of the only countries on the planet that seems to take all the taxpayer dollars from their citizens and give it to other countries that most Americans can't even point to on a map, partially because of the Department of Education, but also countries that have no strategic advantage to us, no business relations with us, in many cases, not even the same core values of us. I'm flabbergasted and annoyed by how much money is stolen from us every paycheck, and we still have so many issues that we should be fixing here first. And again, Trump's doing a lot of good things. Some things I don't like, obviously, like most politicians. And I'm glad he actually canceled this. Maybe someday we'll get our money back in terms of government stealing less from us. He said he was going to try to get rid of the income tax. I hope he does. That'd be the most revolutionary thing to happen in politics in decades. I'm not holding my breath. But yeah, I think Matt hit the nail on the head with his assessment. Because again, people are being stretched thin as is. What? How does that help us? You could argue, oh yeah, it helps with the world in terms of decreasing STDs and this, transmission disease. It's also an instance where there's there's a near 100% way not to get these diseases and STDs. Cross your legs. There's a rare instance back in the day before they properly tested blood where you can get it via a blood transfusion. That was a real risk back in the day. But thanks to proper testing, that doesn't happen hardly at all now. Now, going to the main comments, we'll see how many people or if he was ratioed. One of the first comments comes to us thanks to Based Electrician, who A+ for marketing, know exactly what he does for a living. He is, in fact, an electrician who is based. Although, I wish he put can't really buy his services because he's not really advertising his business. But nevertheless, the Based Electrician says, quote, the gay man in Uganda will probably end up in the mayor of New York City. 65 likes, which, yeah, I'm importing a lot of them. Now, you also have a contrarian statement by the name of course, it's a gal, Ariaka Bloss, as we've seen. Oh, she's cool. She follows me. But again, I like to follow his main contrarian comments because life gets boring as hell when you're in an echo chamber. So we want to try to get as many views as possible or perspectives more accurately. Now, she says, quote, because HIV is a pandemic, which spreads, ? Getting 78 likes, which it spreads, but mostly because of choices people make. Well, she ratioed. Now, Jerry Gray, alligator emoji, must be from Florida. Now, he says, quote, if only there was a way to avoid getting HIV, getting 68 likes. He almost ratioed her. He's so close. Now, she said, it's funny you should mention that Republicans cut funding for reproductive health, aka killing kids, condoms, and testing education in those countries because Christianity. Well, it's those other countries. Why is that our problem? Again, these countries aren't even, they don't even do business with us. Like, I can even if I don't agree with it, I can understand the argument of, hey, the United States, we work with another country. They spend billions of dollars buying our defense armaments, our technology, our software. And we're going to give them, they give us billions by buying our products and services. We're going to give them a couple $100 million in aid. I could understand that. I still think they could probably do it on their own. But again, it's not us. Now, Sandy May says, quote, nope, HIV is not a pandemic. It's easily preventable. Getting 19 likes. Let's see. I am a horse thief. Committing a crime, I see. Maybe I should say this is alleged, Mr. I'm a horse thief. Hashtag Tony Cartman1 says, it spreads because of choices people make. The U.S. has been teaching people that they need to not be responsible for the outcomes of their choices, getting 20 likes. Gil Mianos says, quote, my advice is to not have sex with Africans, getting 18 likes. So by number of comments, she was ratioed, but not by the actual likes. So I think that's the rules of the X for the Twitter says she was technically not ratioed. You also have, going back to the main comment section, you have Alpine Lakes that says, quote, how does it spread? It seems like there's only a few statistically relevant population it spreads through, getting 11 likes, which, I mean, that's technically true, though I think with more and more, in 2025, there's so many, I'd say there's a more and more higher propensity of people having relations between races, maybe without time that might eventually equalize altogether. But right now, yes, it is higher in African American on that metric. Going back to the main comment section again. See, yeah. Overall, just ratioing her. Now again, sorry, going back to the main comment section. Paul Zupa says, quote, it's wokeness, no further explanation required, getting 39 likes. Wow, this one got 867 likes. Brett Zettler, now he says, quote, epidemics will overflow until they threaten our interests or of those of our allies. Besides which, if we have the know-how, why not help the world? If we have inexpensive technology to produce food, why not give it away freely? This guy doesn't understand communism has never worked. They got 867 likes, though. It's one of the most popular responses. Matt Walsh responded, saying, quote, it's extremely, extremely easy to avoid getting HIV. No reason for a normal person in a first world country to spend a second worrying about it. Now, Matt got 2,000 likes. He, as you might say, ratio Mr. Bill Zettler. Now, in terms of, he says, we have inexpensive tech to produce food. Most countries do have an advantage, and they use it to their, they use it so they can trade with other countries and make a profit. A good example would be like the Middle East. It's mostly sand, though I'm sure it's fun to visit. They don't produce a lot of food there. They can't charge a premium because they really don't have the production capacity. What they do have the capacity is to make unfathomable amounts of oil. They can produce that and refine it quite efficiently. So they have an advantage over other countries that don't have the natural resources or infrastructure to process their type of oil. So Saudi Arabia has a huge advantage. They can sell oil for a premium. Thankfully, we were starting to drill in the United States, so we're getting the increase in it as well. But we, globally speaking, have a great advantage when it comes to food production. We sell it to other countries and we make a profit. Hopefully. I can't think with technically we don't because we have more and more of a deficit every single year, but we should make a profit. Steve, Irish Flag, says, quote, I know this isn't something conservatives want to hear, but sometimes having pennies of your tax dollars going to help potentially save millions of lives overseas, it's just the right thing to do. Not everything has to do with direct ROI for America. Get 898 likes. If you're a nonprofit, yes. Again, I try not to use religion as an argument because most people in the United States, you see the number of people agreeing or attending church is dropping dramatically. I can understand, and I am of the faith. I do understand the Christian desire to help other people with your own money, not stealing it from people and then doing it. These are tax dollars. If a church or a nonprofit in the United States wants to raise money voluntarily by people giving them donations, and they want to help overseas, I'd say they should probably help us here first because we saw problems, but I see no issue with that. Again, this is money that is stolen from us with tax dollars and then given to people across the globe that don't directly benefit us. I understand having a philanthropic desire. And again, there's nonprofits for a reason. There are churches that have many similar missions. But again, these are tax dollars that are stolen from us. Now, I wonder if Steve was ratioed. Going to the comment section. Let's see. Billy responds saying, quote, you're not comprehending how much the U.S. national debt is. It's crisis level. The U.S. national debt is $106,000 per American. The Ugandan national debt is $550 per Ugandan. Yeah. And again, the U.S. is $37 trillion in debt because of ineptitudes and or corruption of Democrats and Republicans. So of all the times we need to, stop spending money on countries that don't really help us, I'd say, again, from the United States perspective, it'd be now. Again, nonprofit, yeah, well, I understand. Atticus Fitch says, quote, because eradicating AIDS is a noble pursuit, and America once pursued noble things simply for the sake of virtue of them. Getting 819 likes and 88 responses. Let's see. Got respondents say, quote, Walsh said to explain why anyone has an obligation to do that, you haven't gained 2 likes. And Atticus Fitch respondents say, quote, I guess you don't consider it moral good to be an obligation. I disagree, and 3 likes. Let's see. TB says, right until we discovered that all the quote-unquote noble causes were just a front for stealing our money. I wish we could donate to a noble cause as well, but that's simply not all the reality we live in. Getting 77 likes. Atticus Fish responds saying, global aids have reduced dramatically since the U.S. began its efforts, getting 28 likes. Which again, why is the U.S. In terms of production, not manufacturing, in terms of software production, research and development, innovation, and some manufacturing, the U.S. is, again, very rich, but fiscally speaking, we're, again, $37 trillion in debt. And these other countries, fiscally speaking, have been a sunk cost fallacy for decades upon decades upon decades. Even when I was a kid, we were helping out these countries, and, I'm not an old man, but I've got more gray hairs now than ever before. I understand it's a Christian thing to do, but I don't think it's not sustainable, obviously. We keep losing money every single year. The White Rooster, interesting profile name, says, quote, because it's all the fake programs they use to funnel that money into each the other's pockets, and we vote them in for it. Getting 504 likes, which, yeah, that's not a good point. Of every, can't but think, but every $10 the U.S. takes from us to put into like USAID, $1 makes it to an actual good cause. Again, I'm sure they did some good, but it's such a money laundering piece of crap. David Santa Clara says, quote, do we really need to keep IQ? Well, this is pretty dark. He says, though, do we really need to keep 70 IQ men who can't stop having infidelity, but having infinity, but relations alive? Getting 509 likes. A little dark there. That wasn't a pun, but I can see how it would be interpreted as such. The conservative alternative also says, quote, our tax dollars are supposed to fund our government, not every government in the world. The average person who pays taxes works a fourth of the year for free, and our tax dollars aren't even being used to benefit us. This is textbook taxation without representation. 187 likes. Yep, that's a good point. Again, so I'd love to see an infographic of how much of our money is stolen from us and given to other countries, because it'd be probably pretty depressing. So Matt Walsh did, let's say he probably has a 50% approval or 50% and 50% disapproval rating when it comes to the comments section here. And again, I think he has a good point. If nonprofits and religious institutions want to help those other countries, absolutely. But when it comes to our government tax dollars, And how much other threats? I mean, people dying of ODs in the United States. We have homeless. I mean, we have homeless veterans that actually don't even exist in the United States. So I just think we got to stop reeling in all the spending that has no direct impact to help the average American. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have Ben Shapiro, quote, "I'm not retiring," going viral yet again. I want to say this went extremely viral last year. Now, this is posted to us thanks to Defined L's. Now, he says, well, he just quotes Ben Shapiro. Okay, guys, well, that's not him yet, but it's about 2 minutes long, and perhaps the only person that speaks faster than me, though infinitely more articulately, to his credit. But without too much further ado.
And let's be real about this. It's insane that we haven't raised the retirement age in the United States. It's totally crazy. Joe Biden, if that were the case, Joe Biden should not be running for president. Hey, Joe Biden is 81 years old. The retirement age in the United States at which you start to receive Social Security and you are eligible for Medicare is 65. Joe Biden has technically been eligible for Social Security and Medicare for 16 years, and he wants to continue in office until he is 86, which is 19 years past when he would be eligible for retirement. No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem. Everybody that I know who is elderly, who has retired, is dead within 5 years. And if you talk to people who are elderly and they lose their purpose in life by losing their job and they stop working, things go to hell in a handbasket real quick. But put all of that aside, just on a fiscal level and on a logical level. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt established 65 as the retirement age, the average life expectancy in the United States was 63 years old. Today, the average life expectancy in the United States is close to 80. It's totally insane that you believe that you should be able to work from the time that you are essentially 20 to the time that you are 65, which is a 45-year period, pay in, and then you will receive Social Security benefits sufficient to support you and your family, you and your wife or whatever, for like another 20 years. That's crazy talk. That is not fiscally sustainable. The notion that if you have to raise the retirement age to 67 or 68, that everyone is going to fall apart. My parents are that age. My parents are not retired. And they shouldn't retire. It would be very bad for them to retire. By the way, it's disrespectful to people who are 67, 68, 69 years old to suggest that they are in the same shape as people who are 65 were in 1940. It's not true at all. Have you met a 65-year-old lately? 65-year-olds are not old in the United States. They're not. 68-year-olds are not old in the United States. Again, Joe Biden thinks he's not old, and that dude is running for president again, and that dude actually is old, and he's 81. I failed to see how a country in which our entire leadership class is 80 plus is telling you that we should have a retirement age of 65. It makes no sense at all.
And people hated him for saying this. Viscerally hated him for saying this. Now, fiscally speaking, he's right. Again, the U.S. is $37 trillion in debt. And because of the ratio of the workforce, or AKA people are being scammed with the Ponzi scheme of Social Security versus people taking it out, it's not sustainable. Fiscally speaking. Now, a lot of people are irate. They took him. A lot of people said Ben Shapiro's never worked a manual day's labor in his life. Because what was he? He was in college. Well, he was a lawyer. Then he got into media. A lot of people say he's never had a single callus on his hand. He'd probably be simply perplexed if you handed him a shovel. Be like, okay, guys, what is this? What is this wooden instrument? Is it some type of instrument? Is it a shovel? I know what it is. Let me get my sister this. Maggie, go get that thing over there. I think the guy from the Home Depot. He may or may not sound. He may have not said that. But again, he does have a different type of job. If he's doing that full time, he runs the company. That's stressful in a different type of way. A lot of people are critiquing him, saying, well, if you're doing manual labor for all these years, you should be able to retire at that age. And a lot of people are saying, what's the point of living? You can't retire. It's things where you look at a lot of the statistics, you look at a lot of the studies, a lot of people, especially men, who get a great amount of satisfaction and purpose from their job, a lot of them kick the bucket shortly after. A lot of them get bored. A lot of them are not happy. Again, I'm not saying every single person is going to be like that. Obviously, there's going to be outliers. But a lot of people do that's a lot of people I know who retire, end up doing consulting part-time because they want something to do and it gives them the satisfaction. Now, in terms of increasing the retirement age, yeah, we have to. I mean, no politician is brave enough to say this. Neither Republican nor Democrat. They lose so many votes. That's why Trump vehemently said he would never touch Social Security when he was running. Democrats the same way. Because they know old people also vote in the one highest percentage rates ever. So you're not going to mess with your voting block by taking away the Ponzi scheme that they paid into. But if you ever look up the definition of a Ponzi scheme, it is quite literally Social Security. And no one is more inefficient or stupid at trying to grow money than the government. And they're not growing. They're just stealing from Peter to pay Paul, so to say. So it's definitely not sustainable. Now, realistically, what I think would happen, I think it would be timed out. It won't be all of a sudden, after this date, no one gets it. They're going to have to do some type of slow transition to wean people off it, maybe. And it's going to be not fair. It's not fair from the beginning to have someone else pay for it. It's one of those defunct things, and politicians destroyed it. And I think, in terms of, again, not financial advice, but I think it would be infinitely more effective, instead of the government stealing your money, just put it into S&P 500 index account, and it would literally grow exponentially greater than what the government is, in terms of you give them money, they give you money later. That would be a gajillion, I mean, that's not a real number, but a gajillion times better and more effective in growing your capital. Again, not financial advice. I'm just saying, when I've looked at the data in terms of here's what Social Security pays you after you pay into it, and is unpalatable to say the least. It's trash. And culturally speaking, Americans, you do see more and more Americans wanting to enjoy leisure earlier in life. But I just, similar to when we had the pandemic, I don't think people are happy when you give them money to do nothing. This is obviously very much not a popular opinion. Everyone roasted Ben Shapiro for saying this. But fiscally speaking, I think is right. And for average person, maybe they get a different type of job when they retire. Maybe instead of doing manual labor, they get something else. Again, I would hate to have to do manual labor all the way until the day you die. I know people have done that. My grandpa was like that. And, oh no, sorry, he did retire later in life, but he was a factory worker over I was about to say the north. Ugh, not Canadian, heaven forbid, Michigan. But it's an instance where you get so much job satisfaction out of it. I think that would be an interesting labor opportunity in terms of the United States, and also culturally, if we were to look into making a job market specifically for the elder folk, and maybe this already exists. I didn't have time to kind of dive into the research before the show today, but that might be a great way to keep them engaged with the community, give them a sense of satisfaction, and still earn some additional income. And personally, I'm a workaholic. I worked, over 70 hours, more than 80 hours a week, a lot. Even publish a show on holidays. But I don't think the average person is going to be happy if they sat around and did nothing all day, or they just did their hobbies all day. I think short term you'd have an increase of happiness, but long term, I think one of the most satisfying things you can do is accomplishing things. Again, some of those things could be hobbies as well. But enough of my pontificating. Let's see. Or maybe I was wrong. Maybe everyone's saying, Ben Shapiro, you're right. Which, first one is from the quartering saying, isn't this hella old? Getting 253 likes. I want to say it went viral about a year ago. We're down more and more. Just Chump says, everyone in America needs to work until they die to support Israel. They got 16,000 likes. Holy Moses. Unmildly intended because of biblical reference. But yeah, Ben Shapiro historically is obviously very pro-Israel. He is Israeli. Or born in America, but is of the Israel faith. There's probably a technical term, I don't know it. Spun Mountain says, guys never worked a physical job in his life, getting 6.4 thousand likes, which... Okay, guys, I went to Harvard. The books were quite heavy. I had to put them in my knapsack, and one day I did have one drop of sweat that went from my brow all the way to my wrist. It was miserable. I had to get some Axe body spray, and my wife is a doctor, which... Well, that is very true. His wife is a doctor. That is his catchphrase. Okay, folks, my wife is a doctor. Okay. Rob says, quote, says the young man who hasn't been put through the grinder for 40 years, raised a family, or put kids through college, retarded strong in Ben. Which, he is a father. He is raising a family. But he's also, he risks everything to co-start the company. And fiscally speaking, he's doing quite well. It's obviously paying dividends. But yeah, I think everyone should have some type of manual labor in their life. Not to be too cliche because I'm Hispanic, but I did a lot of manual labor growing up, sometimes for free, helping out the family in the yard. Moving mulch is a great way to build character. That was, as far as I can remember, the first time I got real calluses on my hands. And then, of course, you get that pain later. I remember that wooden shovel like it was yesterday. Yeah. And the pitchfork. Yeah. So much mulch. Oh, my God. Tons of mulch moved with my dad across the yard. And, yeah, it got a good satisfaction out of it. Grew some muscles. They were not, allegedly, do have muscles under this suit as I work out daily. But, yeah, I remember moving mulch as a kid. I think everyone should do manual labor growing up. Again, I'm not saying it should be should be slaving away, but, yeah. And then, mowing lawns for neighbors, making some extra money when I was growing up doing that. But yeah, moving mulch for the neighbors and family, that was Well, and again, there's a lot harder jobs out there, but as a kid, that is probably one of my first memories of hard physical labor that was challenging. And I remember when I started, I was so light, I would jump on the pitchfork and try to get leverage to get it out, and it barely moved at all. But eventually, I was able to move some mulch pretty good. Now, you also have Pissed Off Patriot, say, quote, says the 41-year-old whose job is sitting in front of a microphone and traveling around the country talking to people. Ben Shapiro maybe should try spending 40 years driving a truck, welding, crawling under hoses, fixing broken pipes, stringing electrical lines, serving in uniform, or any myriad of jobs that actually involve effort. Then when you're 65, you can talk to us about how you feel about coming to work. I used to respect you, Ben. You lost every ounce of my respect. They got 14,000 likes, which, again, having a job in media is quite difficult and stressful, but let's be honest, it's not physical. He does have to walk a fair amount, and I'm pretty sure he works out, but compared to a physical manual labor job, yeah, it's going to be media inside a nice air-conditioned studio. It's going to be a lot easier on your body physically. Now, he also has the mental, again, you can also talk about the mental fatigue and stress of running they're a pretty big business, they have about 220 employees, I believe. He's got a lot of people depending on him. He's got to do a daily show quite articulately and accurately, and he has to help, he says he's no longer in a leadership position of the company. I don't believe those statements. I think he still has heavy influence because he's a part owner of the company. So he's also thinking about working with their current CEO, I believe is Caleb, and, going in the direction of the company. That is a very stressful, having employees is a very stressful thing. But again, that's a different kind of stress. And I don't think the average person I don't think the average person really respects that type of stress. And again, it could hurt your body, get your hair to go gray or lose your hair. He hasn't suffered from any of that yet. Maybe he's not worked hard enough, but yeah, different type. Salty Cracker literally is a picture of a salty cracker. Says, quote, he hasn't done a day of actual work, getting 1.4 thousand likes. Jessica Watkins says, quote, easy to say when you're a talk show host. That's why the late great Rush Limbaugh was able to do his job with terminal cancer. No, now go to work on oil rigs or something, Ben, you cuck. God, I hate you, Ben Shapiro. You whiny, sniveling voice imitates me like nails on a chalkboard. Okay, guys, what is up with that? My voice is articulate, cool, and awesome. Yeah, I got 1.4 thousand likes. Going down more and more. Namrock has a cartoon of a guy. I don't know, is that a ghost? Or no, it's a ripped, jacked ghost with muscles. The kid goes, how'd you get like that? And the jacked guy goes, every time Ben Shapiro says something retarded, I do one push-up. The kid goes, Jesus Christ. And 1.7 thousand likes, which, again, I can't but see the more I look into certain topics, the less I agree with Ben Shapiro. But again, he's had some good takes throughout his career. Knox of the North. Now, this is not a real quote. He's making up a quote from Ben Shapiro where it says, Ben Shapiro until you are ground to the dust, goy. Okay, 1.3 thousand likes with a screenshot of Ben Shapiro looking slightly more comical than usual, which, again, I don't have much ground to stand on when it comes to a physical look, so I can't critique him too hard. Yeah, Matthew Harrison says, quote, hi, Ben, I'm 57 and I'm retiring in 2 weeks. I worked 46 years. Have a problem with that, F off. I was mucking horse stalls when your parents were in 8th grade, putz. Getting 8.2 thousand likes and an A+ for a funny reference. I've not heard the pejorative term putz, I think, since my grandpa was around, which was quite some time ago. You have Dooms Coxon, quote, yeah, everyone should work until they drop dead. This is an asshole take, straight up, get 1,000 likes. Will we find a single person that agrees with Ben Shapiro? It might be like Chris Christie, a rare social media phenomenon, which you have 0 people give a positive response to your take, which is, again, almost statistically impossible because Chris Christie at one point was running for presidential nominee, and allegedly Chris Christie has friends, family, even campaign staff. There are 2 times where I was looking at, his posts where there's no one agreeing with him. See, is Ben Shapiro about to get Chris Christie? Now, Bobby Diesel says, quote, maybe? Did we find one positive take? Now, Bobby Diesel says, quote, maybe Vin Diesel's slow cousin, perhaps? No, in all seriousness, he says, quote, what he's really saying, work until you have 1 foot in the grave so we can keep funding wars overseas. Oh, I thought for a second someone was helping to bail out Ben Shapiro. Got 393 likes. We found it. A positive take, or someone actually agrees with Ben Shapiro. Not Jane Austen. Now she says, quote, or not she, he's not wrong. Boredom leads to an early death, getting 116 likes. But again, those other comments got, 16,000 likes. She got 157 responses, which she ratioed. Flashy Gal Flushing says, quote, who says retirement leads to boredom? Work until the day they bury you is idiot or ridiculous. Got 130 likes, so she was actually ratioed. Again, no one is agreeing with Ben Shapiro. Going down more and more. Sailor Jim simply says, if he worked for a living, he wouldn't say that, getting 249 likes. Anarcho Christian, as Mame from, I forgot what British show that is, but he says keep working peasants and some British person looking elite, which, and snobbish, which isn't saying something because that's usually the British look by default, but they did get 342 likes. Bubba says, quote, that's because he doesn't know what it's like to actually work for a living. Lil Soft and Sissy thinks bumping his gums is real work, getting 277 likes. The FCJ says Ben Shapiro is an arrogant retard. Hashtag I find retards. Getting 257 likes. I think we found one person agreeing with Ben Shapiro out of this whole chain. Let's see. The disrespected trucker simply says he's really had some sideways views lately, getting 643 likes. Yeah. Might be the most ratioed comment Ben Shapiro's made in a couple of years. And it's going, again, viral yet again. And again, I think there's always going to be some satisfaction with accomplishing tasks. I think there's a high correlation with that and work. But I'm definitely not in the popular group today, though. I am usually not by default. But let me know your thoughts. I mean, do you think you should work in some type of capacity into expire? Maybe not physical. Let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part podcast, you have Omar Fateh, a Minnesota mayoral candidate, calls Somalia his home because, well, yep, that's where he's from. Let's come to us thanks to End Wokeness. Now, he says, quote, Minneapolis mayoral candidate Omar Fateh calls Somalia our home, even though he was born and raised here. Really? Well, he did suit up, so he did the one smart thing in politics. Always suit up, because men always look their best wearing a suit. Obviously, wear one every single day. Even on the weekends. Well, okay, not on the weekends, but every work day. So let's hear what he has to say. Again, this is Omar Fateh.
We should make dua for him and pray for him.
There's a Minnesota flag. Kidding, it's technically Somalia, but Minnesota is such a weak conquered state. They changed their, what once, as Trump would say, Minnesota once had a beautiful, gorgeous flag, very historic, very, very beautiful. It's a work of art, so articulate, so many fine details. And then it was conquered by Somalia, redesigned as if it was a kid with a crayon. Which, yeah, Somalia is a weak conquered state led by a weak conquered loser, Tim Walsh. So it makes sense they would change their flag because they also imported nearly all of Somalia. Help Representative Omar.
I understand that our Somali communities are all connected to each other here in Minnesota and back home, and I ask for your support. There's always been a link between our community here as well as back home, and I'm running to bridge that gap and unite all of us and represent all of us, because when we succeed here, we succeed everywhere. And I'm hoping to do that just like Abdrazak, inshallah.
I was gonna say, something our cultures all have in common. There's always some a-hole on their phone when someone's speaking. Come on. Give them their full attention. But yeah, one of the gals in the audience is playing with a smartphone, presumably, or looking down. And this went pretty viral. Got 9 million views and 15,000 likes. Which, yeah, I'm sure they'll improve Minnesota as they've become a great place to work and live. Pun. Crime is exponentially increasing in Minneapolis, and Tim Walz continues to destroy the state. And this is an interesting thing. Less and less assimilation in terms of what we've seen past couple of years comes to immigration. Now, again, this video got 9 million views, 15,000 likes. The first comment comes to us thanks to Paul Zupa. Now, he says, quote, of course, it's an invasion. Omar Fateh sees America as land to be conquered. How can America deport him back? Ilhan Omar can go with him. Wow, I'm pretty sure she's busy with her brother, allegedly. But, yeah, I mean, it's an instance where, I mean, it's hard to tell the difference between Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Somalia. It's, yeah, it's about the same. But, I mean, why are we hearing people, in the U.S. running for office calling other countries their home, and now it's going to benefit them? I mean, Lord knows the U.S. steals enough tax dollars as is. They're going to steal even more to certain countries most Americans can't point to on a map, which, again, I partially blame the Department of Education for that lack of geographical knowledge. But we also have Libercat Media TM. Now, he says, quote, home is Somalia. Go back there and take Ilhan with you so you can both play mayor and congresswoman there. America is for Americans, getting 154 likes. Retard Takes, one of our favorites, literally has the picture of Robert Downey Jr. from one of the most hilarious films of all time, Tropic Thunder, which of course I'm going to attempt Robert Downey Jr. accent of a dude. He's, a dude playing a dude dressed as another dude, which I'll have to start with the catchphrase, of course. Never go full retard. Let's just think America first is a bad slogan. They don't seem to mind Somalia first, which that might be the worst Robert Downey Jr. impression of an impression, but nevertheless, the attempt was made. We also have John saying, quote, if you call Somalia home while running for mayor in America, you're not a leader, you're a foreign agent in a suit, getting 2.4 thousand likes. Though, it is a quite good suit. It's nice, fancy, and pressed. Pushed Nixon says, quote, America experienced Black Hawk Down, and in response is to import millions of Americans who dragged our boys to the streets, getting 1,000 likes. Sorry, import millions of people who dragged our American boys through the streets, getting 1,000 likes. Which I'm sure someone will say, oh, it was a long time ago. Somalia is a great place now. Full of research, development, innovation. We need to invest there. Pun, no. The conservative alternative says, quote, we used to call this treason back when Benedict Arnold was around. You cannot legally pledge allegiance to another country as a public official. We need to start enforcing that law again. Otherwise, America is cooked, getting 219 likes. Going down more and more. Cal Sinclair has a picture, says, quote, only those born in and or pledging allegiance to our country should be able to lead it, getting 109 likes. We also have Joanna saying, quote, people can't be stupid enough to actually vote for a Somalian animal, can they? Seriously, they can't understand WTF? What will happen? And he has a picture of Archer with the meme, says, quote, you want terrorists? Because that's how you get terrorists, getting 71 likes. Which, I mean, she's saying that they're importing voters from Somalia to vote for him. Like, they're voting for their own countrymen? I mean, why do you think Representative Ilhan Omar gets reelected? Is it because she's smart, beautiful, and articulate? Like, and again, I don't have much ground to stand on when it comes to looks, but it's because they're importing Somalians there, left and right. It is the huge contributing variable of why Representative Ilhan Omar gets reelected time and time again. I mean, Lord knows not because of her ideas or policies. Let's see here. We do have a contrarian statement. The African Hub says, quote, why are people hating on this guy? Is it because he's an African descent? Got 105 likes. Now, District AI says, quote, no, it's because he's an idiot who hates the country that gave him everything. Getting 112 likes. Orange Controller says, yeah, no shit. If Somalia is your home, go live there. Getting 131 likes. You have JD saying, no, he's a foreign invader, getting 25 likes. Icaricio says, quote, are you dumb? Getting 66 likes. Marcel Tangler says, quote, he's literally African. I think we could all agree that bringing Africans here, oh, wow, he says was a big mistake and morally wrong. Getting 145 likes. Going back to the main comment section, Steve Howard has a picture of Islam, or Mame. It says, quote, Islam. Mislam sounds like a name of a band from the 90s, but nevertheless, Islam, quote, turning every single country it touches into a shithole over 1,400 years. Getting 283 likes. House Declare also has a repost from Jack Poso. And, this is a leading report reported a couple years ago, it was a couple weeks ago, says Omar Fateh is running for Minneapolis mayor to raise the minimum wage by over $4 over the next 4 years, freeze rent, and Trump-proof the city. And Jack Poso, took the famous quote from what movie was that with Tom Hanks? But it says, I'm the captain now. And people are trying to point out a resemblance to how they look. And 236 likes. Someone actually did Photoshop his face in the actor. This is from S. That got 97 likes. Look at me. I'm me now. 97 likes. Not me, but, the meme. We also have House of Trad saying, quote, these people. There's a picture of the Twin Towers that says, never forget you said. They have a picture of Ilhan Omar says, I am proof we have forgotten. Getting 125 likes. I don't think she works for the CIA, does she? Conspiracy theory pun. Logan Hall says, quote, you can take the foreigners out of Somalia, but cannot take the Somalian out of the foreigners, getting 119 likes. David St. Clair simply has a picture of Homelander with the MAGA hat on, looking disgusted, getting 99 likes. Which, again, as long as the people coming here have the same morals and values that we do, that's all that matters. I think the biggest concern is, he's saying, well, yeah, you want to help out this other country. You also want to implement policies that have destroyed other states, like California, which lost 10,000 jobs after they increased the minimum wage for fast food workers, and also increase the cost of goods to consumer exponentially. Again, he wants to increase minimum wage. He wants to implement policies that have already destroyed other areas. But again, she keeps getting reelected more and more. I mean, Representative Ilhan Omar in Minnesota, her rallies, she actually speaks in Somalian. The community has been imported there, and that's why I think there's a pretty good chance he's going to win. A lot of his fellow countrymen are now, I mean, they're here, and I don't think, like, again, Trump, he's not really doing anything when we're seeing a lot of these people that don't share our same values being elected to and running for, and I believe will become mayor, like Zoran over in New York. I mean, that guy literally said he wants to rewrite the vernacular laws, get rid of the prisons, get rid of guns, clarify, as true leftists, they want to get rid of guns, they want to get rid of the average civilian's ability to have guns. And there's a high chance these folks are going to win. So I guess the better question would be, what do you think is going to happen to these mayoral candidates? Will Trump do anything at all? Do you think, culturally speaking, people will see these policies and say no? I mean, in other states, they've already said yes to a lot of these abhorrent policies they're trying to replicate. But let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day of the Dewalt grinder flap, well, it's being recalled. Now, this is brought to us thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, perhaps the only useful government website, pretty low bar, of course, in which they say, quote, Dewalt recalls grinder flap disc due to laceration and injury hazards. Whoops. You can see one of those Dewalt wheels right there. Now, they say that, quote, the ceramic cloth abrasive flaps on the disc can detach while in use on the grinder, posing laceration and injury hazards, affecting 17,680 units. Whoopsies. And you can see that little flywheel there. Made in Turkey. I guess they do hair transplants and Dewalt products. What else are they known for? A couple cool gun manufacturers. You now know the 3 things that you probably all really need to know about Turkey. Turkish Delight. I don't know if that's made up for Hollywood or not. Now, diving into the specifics of the recall. Oh, whoops, sorry. They say that, quote, the recall involves, again, that Dewalt flap. They are the 4.5-inch 40G T27 high-density flap disc models DWA 828HRT and DWA 828-0RT. They're both compatible with angle grinders for heavy use. Only units with date codes, I can zoom in there on the top of the screen. I say only units with the date codes 2024-36 and 2024-48 are part of the recall. The model number is on the front cover of the flap, located at the top above the name DeWalt. The date code for the recall disc is printed on the shipping boxes in the year, week format, and also stamped at the individual disc. Now, they say consumers should immediately stop using the recalled discs and go to DeWalt's website, which is a URL longer than the, it is longer than the Great Wall of China. To participate in the recall, consumers will be asked to write recall on the disc and upload the photo to the firm's website. Consumers will then be asked to certify that they are disposed of in the trash to receive a refund. And unfortunately, they did not get ahead of the recall. I say that because they have received 3 reports and incidents of the flap disc coming apart while using the grinder, including 3 injuries resulting in cuts and scrapes. Cuts and scrapes, can't articulate today. I was going to say, click that subscribe button. When I first started the show, no one tuned in, well, me and family, and I spoke faster than Ben Shapiro and more clumsily than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs. But more people subscribe, better I've gotten speaking. So click that button, and it'll make me someday get through an entire show perfectly articulately, maybe. Now, these are, of course, imported from Turkey. Recall number is 25-367, and they were sold nationwide, including Grainger, Fastenal, Airgas, and online at Amazon.com from September 2024 to May 2025 for between $7 and $10. Now, thankfully, again, no one's passed away. No one, wasn't any serious injury. Now, again, still sucks. They had some lacerations and cuts, but again, no one. It's good the fact that no one passed away, but again, having a recall with obviously a tool that's very, by its very definition, angle grinders can be pretty dangerous. So not properly testing your equipment and having to recall with already some injuries. Gotta say, Dewalt, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone, everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.